For example, I'm very attracted to the Danish architecture because when I read some books also from Jan Gehl and from their concept of the city and their concept of creating this space for living, it's something clicked for me. It was like, yeah, this is what I was looking for. What was for you with French architecture and Jean Nouvel?
Yeah, I think when I was kind of doing my research, and I've gone through a lot of these characters, whether it's Peter Zumthor or Daniel Libeskind or any of those guys, but I think with Jean Nouvel, I had a bunch more kind of understanding of where he was coming from. And I think a project that I could speak to is probably, he did this tower that never got built in the La Défense, just outside of the Paris and the Périphérique. And it was actually it was proposed as a competition probably when I was just, in 1988, but it was called Tour Sans Fin, and it was an idea of going from the earth to the sky. And it was kind of like a gradient of darkness to light. And there was this poetry within it that I started to kind of relate to, is the best way to put it. And I could understand when I started to read about him more, and I started to, look at documentaries or YouTube videos or anything, the way he spoke about architecture is what I understood, how it could be created as well. So there's a huge imagination aspect to what he does. And then there's this layer of contextual architecture where he finds like the DNA of places and transforms that into something that exists in this time and place. So using technology that's relevant in society today, plus the fusion of what's going on in culture and society. And it's kind of like bringing all these ingredients together to create this building that's ultimately something completely imaginative and poetic and beautiful. And Jean has his own thing around the art and the architecture thing. I think he himself is quite confused, or would almost say he's an artist as well. So there was that too going on with him, and he was. They all start to do different typologies, and they all start to do different, fashion, furniture, and all that stuff. So he was applying that thinking elsewhere as well. But it wasn't until I got in there that I realized was because it's all well and good reading and writing and all that, but when you get in there, it's obviously the reality of the situation. So it wasn't until I got in and found my feed and started working with him and under him did I start to realize where this was going and why this guy was so special, and that was extraordinary. I did a couple of competitions, of course, and I did that for a while, and working with him on those, and whether that was we were doing stuff in London or we were doing stuff in the Middle East, it was quite like an experience to go into a room with him and watch him operate. I think the imagination this individual has is just beyond anything. It's coming up with, he inputs all the data, a very knowledgeable person, but when all the data goes into his head, it's like processing, and the next thing it's coming out with a narrative for how potentially this place could be and could live and it can exist and how it feels and looks. And so you're documenting all this through writing and through trying to understand what Jean is saying. And it's extremely, a really intense creative situation that I've never actually, I was never in that before. And that showed me a way different way of how they practice. And in some ways it's quite efficient now that I see, but like in other ways what I couldn't believe is like a guy who was 75 could still think like a child of 3, and life and reality and all the parameters of building and economics and politics. And yet Jean had this desire to just fly above all that, just not listen to it, and just to drive home dreams essentially. And I just and then I spent 4 years there. So, the proofs, that's why I ended up there for so long is I drank the Kool-Aid, Georgie.